G'day guys, welcome to another live webinar. We're extremely excited to have you all here. Today's topic, of course, is trailer loading. This is something that I've been doing for, feels like the whole of my life. When you get good at horses, trailer loading is, of course, one of the major fundamentals for being able to go somewhere with your horse. I remember some time ago in Australia driving from Melbourne to Sydney and doing trailer loadings all the way up and then all the way down. And when you've done as many horses as that, you learn a little bit of a system and what to do and what not to do on all kinds of horses of all different sizes and breeds and shapes and colors and dots. So we have it here tonight, and we're really happy that all you guys are here. I have my lovely assistant, Connie Loonstra, who's put this amazing webinar together for everybody. So it'll be super organized.
With the help from Ava.
With the help from Ava, of course. And yeah, so trailer loading, everything your horse needs to know about the trailer, which is a very good opening statement. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an Australian, originally from Melbourne, Australia. I am now living in the Netherlands, in North Brabant, in an amazing town called Langenboom. Translates to Long Tree City, is where it happens. I have a training stable here in the Netherlands, training people and horses and my own horses together with my partner for International Grand Prix. And of course, we have our online training method, the TRT method, together with Connie, being able to share and teach everybody as much as they want to know about their horses and how much fun and knowledge they can gain from them. So the website, of course, from TRT method has a lot of different testimonials from a lot of different people from different walks of life. So it's not only dressage people, but also from a jumping background, recreational riders, eventing, reining, driving, you name it. We're able to cover it. We're in 55 different countries, so it's a very international brand where we're sharing knowledge from all corners of the world. And we should probably start with our webinar. We're going to cover in this webinar tonight 3 mistakes that we make with trailer loading. Some of you might have seen those mistakes in the Brett Kidding demonstration. Although he's a masterful horseman, he is able to demonstrate sometimes all the things we resort to in the trailer loading in the desperation. We will show you the 6 steps of trailer loading that I use generally on most horses. Of course, there's always exceptions and there's always room for being able to adjust your approach depending on the horse, but these are sort of the general steps that I take, that I use with pretty much all the horses that I'm doing here at home and around. You have then the opportunity to work with me, so we'll keep that exciting secret for later on. And then, of course, this wouldn't be a webinar without a Q&A session, being able to ask your questions and being able to see some clips and videos from some other people with their horses and being able to give tips and really have some interaction. But first, Connie has some questions for you guys on the chat, so we get to know you.
Yep. Yes, so first of all, I would like to know if you have a horse with trailer loading problems. And you can probably now see the question, and you can also answer with yes or no. And I'm really curious how many people have horses with trailer loading problems or who have had horses with trailer loading problems. And I see well, it's not really a big surprise, but the majority has an issue with trailer loading, around 80%, 78%, and okay, the rest doesn't have an issue, or at least not right now. All right, and then I have another question. And that is, if you do have an issue with trailer loading, what kind of problem do you have? Perhaps he doesn't want to go on the trailer. Perhaps he does go on the trailer, but runs off again. Or perhaps he's anxious or stressed during traveling. Or you have issues with unloading. and maybe you have more than one issue, but maybe you can pick the main problem, the biggest issue you would like to solve. And I see most of the people, Tristan, have an issue with the horse not going on the trailer.
Okay.
A bit more than 50%, no, around 50%, roughly 24-25% is an issue with running off, and around 20% that is anxious. Do you also recognize that with the horses you've trained?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is that, of course, with trailer loading, of course, we're always starting at the beginning, and if we start at the beginning and we have a difficulty, it's always with getting them on. And then, of course, sometimes we're able to put them on, and then, of course, at any opportunity, the horse is being able to come off as quick as he can. And then, of course, if you have a horse that's happy to put himself in a situation he's not really in control of, he's in the trailer, but he's not really feeling in control of the situation or himself, then you, of course, get the anxious traveler. So it's normally these are predominantly the three main things when people bring horses or they call up for a request that they're having some difficulties. And the nice thing is, Connie, you said to me that 1,300 people signed up for the webinar. So everybody...
Almost 1,400, actually.
So 1,400 signing up for a webinar on trailer loading. So the important thing to note is that actually it's not really a problem. It's just a matter of training, but that everybody who has a problem or has had a problem, that you're very much not alone. This is a very normal thing, and it's not something that's a great disaster. It's just a matter of having the right knowledge to get through it and find a way that your horse and yourself can be capable and confident.
All right. Well, let's hear from you what the 3 mistakes are with trailer loading.
So, mistake number 1 that I tend to see and I feel in horses is that we are trying to make the horse go on. So what's important about the difference between teaching our horses to do something and making our horses do something is, of course, the mindset that the horse has in the beginning, that he feels not that he's in control of himself, but that he's being controlled. And so for a horse's confidence, this is a really important difference in the mindset. If your horse is really feeling that he's being controlled, he's being put somewhere in a position that he's not in control of, it's going to make him anxious. If a horse feels that he's in control of himself, that we're not trying to make him go on with the lunge ropes behind the tail or the broom from the stable or a big whip or a big bucket of feed, that we're bribing him on, we're making him go into this space. And if you think about it, in a horse's world, it's a very unnatural place to put yourself. So their natural instincts of flight would tell them that don't walk into the coffin, you know, don't walk into the lion cage, don't walk into a place that could smell and look and feel like death. So from the beginning, if a horse is being made to go somewhere, he's of course going to have that fear factor. And the other thing that comes with making the horses go on is that if you make the horse go on, you have to make him go on every time. And so this often leads into it being difficult. Maybe you get away with it the first time and then you have to make him go on the second time, and maybe the environment might have changed a bit. You have a little less time, a little more pressure, he's a little more fresh. He starts to figure out that the last time he was made to go on and he got stuck in this box and he went for a drive and he was unsure how to balance, and now he was nervous and he's thinking, I'm not going to be made to go on that thing again. So really the difference between making him go in or teaching him, asking him the questions that he needs to know and giving him an opportunity or her to answer them in a way that they get knowledge and confidence from knowing what it is they are putting themselves into, rather than we are putting them, shoving them, making them go into the box. Number 2, I quite often have students coming with the horses and saying, I tried to go to a competition last week and he wouldn't go on the trailer. So, of course, waiting until you have to go somewhere and hoping that he goes in the moment when you are, of course, very stressed and there's a time restraint. You're only thinking, oh, I'm already running late for the show. Oh, I hope he gets on real quick because I don't have time for him to mess around. So, you know, putting yourself in a situation where the horse has to go on actually puts yourself in a situation where you have to make it happen. And so it's at then that we're trying to just in one go get the horse on the trailer. And then it takes us away from thinking about it being a training. And so for me, it's very important that the trailer loading is a training. We teach it as a training. If you think of the elements involved in a horse going into a trailer, you know, that he has to learn the right approach. He has to know all the steps from the beginning of the ramp to the front of the chest bar. He has to learn how to balance. He has to learn how to put himself between something, under something, over something. All of these elements in which he has to learn to be able to load successfully and travel successfully. There's a lot involved. So if you don't think of it as a training and think about practicing each of those elements, then your horse can never get to a point where he masters it. So you should always think of it being like a breakdown, like you would teach anything else. If you want to teach your horse to be able to walk over plastic or go over a trot pole, you know, make a transition into canter or a flying change or a pirouette, or to jump a double or a triple. You know, this all takes a breakdown of training where you teach all of the elements separately, and then when you put it all together, your horse is successful in completing the task. So it's very important. Don't think of it as just a one-time thing that we have to get him in, but more about it being really a training that you really teach the horse and you're able to practice in a time where you set time for the training, and not that you put them in under time pressure because you have to get somewhere. The other important thing about that is, of course, if you, Gunny switching quickly back, if you are in a situation where you have to go to the vet, for instance, so you're in an emergency situation, so preparing for that, those sort of situations where you've trained for it. So if something happens to the horse and he has to go quickly to the vet for a colic or something, you're not adding stress because he's being asked to, you're having to make him go into the trailer when he's already has stress-related colic or something. So avoiding these kind of situations by practicing it, always knowing that in an emergency situation, your horse is also calm and knows how to load and travel in the trailer. And point number 3, and this is an important one for me because there's also a factor of really learning to give yourself the skills in being able to communicate to your horse direction, forward, back, left and right, the coordination between your leading aid, your driving aid, where you're putting yourself, in what position, being able to communicate to your horse when he takes 1 step up, when he takes 3 steps back, and that your body language and the way you are projecting the energy into your horse, that you don't have too much energy and not too less energy. All these things takes a little bit of practice. So don't make, in the training of teaching your horse to go into the trailer or the loading or the traveling, don't make the goal about being in the trailer, because then your mindset, one, is so far ahead that you miss all the little details that makes it possible and gives you success. You know, there's a lot of focus and timing and feeling that goes into being able to teach the horse to take that 1 step on or 3 steps back. And if you're only thinking about getting him on, then you're missing those little cues where you need to give him a release, where you need to reward him for that step, where you need to maybe ask him to go back 2 steps instead of going on 4 steps. And also being able to treat it as a training, in that you can start and maybe your horse is already objecting and not knowing how to approach to the trailer. So if you can't begin by your horse approaching the trailer in the right way with the right posture. He's not putting his body in a position for success. He's already thinking negative and putting his body in a position of failure. Then that should be your first goal. It should be that you teach him how to approach. He's confident about walking up to the ramp. He gets to the ramp and you turn him away, giving him the reward, letting that be the session, giving him the idea that if he creates this posture and walks towards the trailer, that's going to be the feeling he needs to succeed. And if at that point, that's the thing he needs to learn, and your only focus is getting him on, or the goal of that session is to have him in and closed, it might be too much for that horse in one stage. You know, and it's not an embarrassment and it's not a failure to perfect all the steps needed. It might be the approach. It might be 2 steps on and then 3 steps off. And he does that really controlled. And you need to make that a point of focus and really a reward for him that he's never done that well before. And it's that point that you need to put him away at to let him realize that was really the key thing that's going to lead him into more successful steps. So think of it as a breakdown. Don't think each session you have to have them fully on and closed up to be successful. If you're successful in one of the steps, you're already winning and progressing to be able to have the end goal at the end, not in the beginning.
And it's really nice that you spoke about the approach, because I think we can then move on to our first video, which is actually about where you demonstrate the correct approach. Shall we have a look?
Yes.
So first I get some trailer loading angel dust so that she goes in. And without this trailer loading dust, you can buy it on the website. Without this trailer loading dust, you may not be successful. Good girl. So now she's ready. Of course, in the beginning, you know, it can't always be serious, folks. Trailer loading can be stressful, but it can also be nice. I start to move them a little bit because I don't want to start from a standstill. For them to be able to walk and approach to the trailer, the feet have to be moving. So I start a little bit with the turning, and then I go to the movement with the carrying posture. So she's moving the feet, she has to be respecting the rope, and then from here I let it be natural for her to go towards the trailer. When she wants to go away, I then start to turn the hind leg again. When she's facing, I relax. Again here. And again I have the whip, so it's just a guide. I'm able to control the hind legs in the position I want. So here where she relaxes a little bit, I don't do anything. So at this moment I don't need to be pushing. I've got her into the position where she's thinking, and then I always take note of where they're at. You have some horses that will look left and right of the trailer. They'll look at the tailgate, and at the moment that they look in and forwards towards the chest bar, that's the only time that they're actually physically going to enter. If they're not looking in, or they haven't looked past the point where they are, they have no intentions of going all the way in.
So what you see here on the first video, this is...
Oh, important question, Tristan. Sorry. Miriam says, can I have 100 kilos of magical dust?
Yes, you can order the magical dust on TRT Tools. Comes in a little pink bag with a fairy on it. No, of course, you don't need any fairy dust. This video is actually directly from the TRT Method online training. This is in our bonus video series on trailer loading. The mare that I have there, the idea was to, she's a mare with multiple sort of ways of avoiding. So she was the horse that wanted to turn around before even approaching. She was the horse that wanted to take the rope and run off. She was the horse that wanted to run on. She was the horse that wanted to run off. She was the horse that put the head under the chest bar. She was the horse that as soon as you made a noise at the back to close up, she ran off. She was the horse that put the head in the air and you know, put her head above the trailer to go in. She had all the symptoms and all the, of course, things that we all struggle with, or different people, in one horse. And the nice thing was is then in this video we were able to show lots of different scenarios. The demonstration, of course, is not about how I would normally go about it, that I'm just there to solve the problem and teach the horse. The video is very much about showing what will happen. You know, there will be multiple attempts. The horse will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. You know, but it's really working out where the loopholes will be and how to position yourself to be able to correct those things, and really how to take it piece by piece. And then, oh, what happens if this starts to happen? What happens if the horse on the beginning of the approach is already not focusing? So this is our beginning part, the steps. And so on the online training, the TFT method, we have the first module, which is the first ground pattern. And this is really teaching the horse a good body awareness, so that they're understanding where their body is and how to move in the right order to feel like they are in control of themselves. It's also building a dialogue that you are able to communicate to your horse when you want them to move one step right with the left hind. It enables you to be able to communicate to the horse when you want to move the right front leg to the right one step. So it's giving you a foundation and a framework in which you are able to show the horse where they shouldn't be, and to be able to make small adjustments that you can be very accurate and very clear in your communication without it being sort of a mashing, wrestling argument, that you can really get the horses tuned into you. You have a very clear dialogue of the body control. The horse understands the body. He understands the cues in where he should put his body and when he's going to get the rest. So the horse feels like they're in control of the situation because they understand where it is you're asking them to be or not to be. And so this first step, of course, when you have those controls, is much easier. When you start to approach and your horse is already leaning back, you're able to influence the part of the body that gives them the feeling that they need to lean forward. So if a horse is approaching the trailer and he has a body posture like this, leaning against the rope, everything in his body is saying no. And even if he thought in his mind, I want to go in, his body is not allowing him to. So teaching them from the beginning this feeling of, oh, I'm leaning forward, my focus is forward, my approach is good, that the horse is able to approach not by us pulling them there, leading them there, taking them there, but the horse really taking himself to the trailer. How is your horse turning up? Does he turn up and think, oh, I want to go this way, or oh, there's the trailer, don't look there? You know, if he can't begin by confronting what he has to take himself into, then it's not going to be successful. So it's very important that this beginning part is that the horse is able to navigate their own way towards the trailer in a good posture, in a good mindset, that they're looking where it is they're wanting to go. Their body is saying yes and not saying no. The technique from us, of course, has to be being able to guide the horse by directing the feet which direction they have to go. Building a contrast where you say, here I'm going to ask something. When you lean forward towards the trailer, we're going to ask nothing. So they get to be good decision makers about how to be able to find the comfortable place. For this mare in the beginning, what would be important is that she's, you know, starting to push into me and take the head away like she wants to lead herself away. So I'm just redirecting the feet, being able to turn the hind leg. So this is the first exercise in the first module for our ground pattern. And then when the horse straightens herself and she starts to look for the first time in the trailer, it's at that point I would normally walk away. So I would acknowledge the try. So instead of at that point taking advantage and pushing her in, she's gained the right approach, she's leant forward, she looks in, and then I take her away. And then she thinks, oh, that was easy. If I prepare myself in the way for going in, actually, I feel like the most obvious thing to do then would be to step forward. But of course, you make her aware of the body posture, preparing herself, that the horse gets good at the preparation for doing something. When the horse is getting good at the preparation, we say this in all movements, when the horse is getting, you reward the preparation, the horse gets good at preparing themselves for the movement, then the execution of the movement, the next step, comes for free. So the better that they can think of this as a preparation of readiness, making themselves, putting themselves in a position, I'm ready to go forward. My body says I can go forward. My physical state is saying I can take the next step forward. Then the approach becomes perfect, that in the end, you can drop the rope. They see the trailer and go, oh, I know how I'm going to take myself to the ramp to be successful of going up and in.
All right, shall we move to the second video? Is where you're keeping control of the feet.
Good.
And then I check my forward and back. So again, body language, then the voice. Now again, I don't do anything. And so this is all in the preparation, and I try to keep this slow so that you keep control. As soon as you start thinking now, oh, quick, push her in, you take the energy level up too high, and then you start to lose a little bit control. And of course, the worst thing for a mare like this that is turning into you is to be getting in front of her and pulling against. As soon as you start to pull on the head, you give them something immediately to lean against. So I'm just having the feeling that I can control her feet from this position. And then I ask again, a little bit forward. And then again, I don't do anything. She offers this step herself. And then from here, I let her relax a bit. Before she makes another decision, I go back again. So I go 1 step, 2 steps. What's important is that this doesn't happen. I want to keep the control. I'm not telling her to go in at that point. I'm just telling her to be straight. And the other important thing here is I don't move my feet. That if she starts to pull me away from the trailer, she's starting to dictate where we're going to go. So if she starts to move away, I try to keep my feet. And then I want to get control here, that I can go backwards in control. That when I start to go backwards, she's not squirming left and right. Here I push with the whip instead of pulling with the rope, and I want the calm backwards. I guide the front end a little bit. So the whip's important here to be able to block left and right so you don't get into the pulling. There she relaxes again. And now again I try with my approach. So the focus has to be here on the trailer, looking in with the voice. And then I expect her then to go to the same position she was before. The pawing here I allow to a certain degree. So when they are pawing a little bit, it's a bit like testing the water. Is it safe? But I don't let it get to a degree that becomes frustration. And then again here I relax. And then you just have to feel. If the horse is leaning really back, in the beginning stages, it's not a good idea to push forward because then you're pushing against the pressure. I try to have the feeling, always keep the nose in. Here, again, I test my forward. Good. And so here, if she leans in, then I ask a little bit again, keep control of the head. And now I'm aware at what stage do I have. If I get the back legs on here, relax. Now I go back again. So I got a little bit further than I did before, and I'm keeping the movement. What you don't want to run into is the problem of standing still and then starting to push, and then she leans against you. So there's good. Again, she gets relaxed. She has to have time to think.
So we see in this video the first steps up onto the ramp. We have our approach, which still in moments needs work. You see that in the first steps backwards, then the mare is really thinking backwards and starts again with the pushing the hind legs into me. But what's also important to notice with this is my body language. So when I go to the side of the trailer, I'm really in one position. So I'm not dancing around following the horse. My body language is not too busy, not too quick in or the next step and come on now on, and I'm really thinking that I'm keeping myself in a level of energy where I'm taking one step at a time. The other important thing to note from this position is from here, this is why I work with the whip. Now, the whip for me is not something that gives me more ammunition. It's not something that I use the whip to give more pressure to be able to put the horse on. The whip is enabling me to be able to have one position with my body and to be able to give very soft but precise cues to the horse about which part of the body they need to be thinking about. So it's very much not about the whip gives some fear factor and makes the horse go on. It gives me an extension of my arm so I can be very precise and I can keep the stable position of my body. So not feeling that when the horse moves, I move, and then they have no point of reference, no point of stability. I don't want to be in the position where I start to go to the back of the horse, following the horse, that the horse feels as if they're being pushed on. But I can really be in this neutral position and the horse feels that they are in control of their own steps. I'm asking and guiding which steps they need to take, but they need to be in control of them. And then you notice from this position, when she's got the front feet in, I'm not then quick to push the rest of the body in. I'm really spending time in the space in which she's not yet good at. So I want to really feel that I get the stillness and the stability in these first steps on the ramp, that I really can take 1 foot on, 2 feet on, 1 foot off, 3 feet on. And at every moment I can have rest, and then I can either ask a step backwards or a step forwards. I'm also asking in a certain order. This is also really important because it's also the difference between making them and teaching the horses to follow the guiding aid, not the forcing or the making aid. So I'm always giving the body language, which is a little bit direction with the rope, so an idea, an inclination of the direction the horse should go. And then I'm having different noises for the forward, for the back. And then, of course, the whip or my driving aid is giving the direction, the practical example of where the horse should take the next step, forward or back. So, and the reason I do it in that order is that, like any work that you do with another person, a horse, whatever the exercise might be, if you want to refine the aid, the other person or the horse never gets softer or more refined than the first pressure you give. So if I tap the horse or push the horse or whack the horse to take one step, I will always need that. And it directly becomes a making of the step rather than an asking. So if I'm always first giving an idea with the body language and then verbally, so I ask for the forward step and then I show the horse with the direction guidance of the whip which direction I want to go, just like you would work with somebody else. When you worked long enough and you've had the practical example, you've had the verbal explanation, in the end you can just give the look and, oh, I know what it is I have to do. And this is what we want to, of course, get it to. So staying in this position, finding a position of rest, really knowing 1 step on, 2 steps off, 3 steps on. Each time you can have a rest period, not that you have the feeling that you take 2 steps on and then you want another 3 or 4 steps on. Really realizing that the horse has to cover all of the ramp. In the end, when the horse is a master, if you were to paint his if you were to talk properly, if you were to paint his feet pink, in the end, the ramp should be all pink, that the horse is able to walk really one step onto, and really cover and understand and know and navigate his way around the whole ramp. He knows what the ramp is, all the little steps above the little bars on the trailer, putting his feet in between them, on them, over them, behind them, around them, that none of the steps being stable or unstable makes the horse nervous. They really know what that feeling is in all the steps forward and all the steps back. And being able to have the rest in the middle of the steps means that the horse is taking the time to listen to the next bit. He's not rushing ahead. He's not thinking backwards when he should be going forwards. And he's not thinking about being all the way in or all the way off. This is also what is preventing the other problems in the future, the ones of the horses rushing off really quick, the horses that can't close up the tailgate, the ones that rush really quickly on, and then they get in there and then they are nervous travelers. This is eliminating all those things from the beginning.
Well, that's good to hear, because we have quite some questions from people about those issues. So you already said something about the rest. We have here a video with the third step, and it's about working in the wrong place and rest, giving the rest in the right place. Let's have a look.
Here again. Wrong thing difficult. Just go through the pattern, turning the feet. Hind legs. So just move the front, move the hind legs. Doesn't matter what you do, just as long as they feel, holy hell, this was a bad idea to come out here. And then relax. Good girl. And let her relax again. Let her feel, oh yeah, hang on a minute. Maybe I want to be here, not out there. And so I don't try to stop her from dragging me out there. I create a little bit of resistance, but then I let her feel when she's out there.
Okay, so what you see here, it skipped quite a long way forward in the actual video. So it might seem all of a sudden really extreme that we go to moving the horse around quite a lot. But what we're doing here is the mare's really having her own ideas at every step of the way. So she's basically challenging all elements in the process of learning the steps to be able to load really easily. And one of the steps here is she becomes the horse that when you get into the trailer, she's all of a sudden getting busy. So she gets in and she's starting to get the energy up. She's been in there a little while, and then she starts to get sort of moving the feet and then thinking, oh, I'm losing control of my feet and I'm rushing out. And so she, at that moment, of course, the energy is leading her into making a poor decision, which is, I'm going to run out of here. One, running out is never safe. Two is she's not then able to be in control of her physical state when she's in the trailer. So she's not yet explained to herself that actually taking the rest, finding the stillness, being in control of yourself is actually the only way in which you can control the situation. If you're in control of yourself, you can control the situation. So when she goes out there, then I build contrast by starting to move the feet more than maybe she necessarily planned on. So maybe she thought I would go out of the trailer and then I find the rest and get still. But what we want to explain to her is you can find the rest in the trailer by building a contrast. So she comes out and then I just start to go through my pattern, which she understands what I'm saying. You can see there, I don't have to, you know, I'm not really sort of having to whack the horse around or make her go anywhere. I'm only giving an indication of, oh, let's move right, let's move left, let's move the front end, let's move the back end, and let's work a little bit out here. Here I'm going to ask you some things, and you're going to have to move the feet a little bit left and right. We're going to do our pattern quickly. We're not getting rest here. We're actually working. And then as she looks in and I give the release, I let her take her own steps up. I let her make a clever decision about where she puts herself, and then I let her find the rest. So at that moment, she can start to think, oh, actually, what I thought was the place I was getting the rest is actually the place where I get given a duty, where I have to do something. And when I go in, then actually this becomes the spot that I find the rest. So then you become the mentor, not the dictator of stand still while you're in here, or I'm going to whack you when you're out of here. But just letting her find out where the point of rest is. So letting her feel that you are the mentor. You are the one that explains the most about herself. Here you have to work, and out and in here is actually, can you feel it now in your body? And I'm rubbing you calmly with the stick, and she says, yeah, actually, here I actually find the rest. And it's at that point, then you can again take the horse out. And it's maybe at that moment when you have a horse that's busy in the trailer, that then you need to put them away. So that piece of information becomes noticeable, that the horse finds the rest. You build the contrast, you put the horse away. It's like pressing the save button. And then the very next time you bring the horse out, the horse thinks, oh, I'm going to go and find that rest point again, because at that point, the exercise was over and I had the feeling of success. That at that moment, the horse really felt like, oh, I did something right there. This is what I have to keep looking for, that they have really the feeling of success and they learn what accomplishment is within the exercise. Oh, I've accomplished loading myself and standing still and finding rest. This is actually something that is going to be useful to me further on as we go through the steps. So if you have a horse getting busy, goes in, stands for a little while, gets a little bit busy, goes out, this is most of the time the process I use to really let the horse find out how they can give themselves rest in a place in which they would normally find the energy and the tension building up.
Can you perhaps also explain why this isn't, because it can look a bit like you're making the horse, but why it's not making a horse? Because Carmen wanted to know that, and also was wondering why you're going in the trailer this time and not standing next to the trailer. And also, actually, because some people saw the horse and they were like, oh yeah, that's exactly like my horse. So it's pretty familiar.
So, yeah, the difference between making is what I just explained, that I'm then not putting a whole lot of pressure in the moment where I ask her to go on. So it's not that I chase her outside and chase her and chase her and chase her until I get speed up and she gets thinking, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here, and then I chase her in. It's very much with this mare about letting her feel here where I'm asking you something that you know, this is a pattern that you know, turn the hind leg, move the front leg. It's a sequence that's familiar to her. So it's not that I'm asking something that she doesn't know what it is. So she basically knows, oh, here I have to do my duties. And so then you build a contrast of her really understanding duties, work, responsibility, rest. The other important thing is for this particular mare, for her to find the rest, she also had to feel from me where I was also in rest at that moment. So if she goes in to build a better contrast, she feels from my body language also that I stand and rest. It's also why I'm rubbing her with the stick. She's also a horse that wanted to turn around a lot. So with me going in with her, I'm able to help her keep the focus and direction straight forwards. So if you have a horse that sometimes lacks the skill in the navigation, that they get lost up the ramp, they're thinking about turning around, they're not finding the stillness, then I just stay with them a little bit. So I help them over that speed hump by them reading my body language, by me guiding them, not letting them leading themselves down the wrong path through the process. And I just help to guide them that little bit further. And when they overcome that bit, they really find the rest. And you can go back to this position beside the trailer in the end, and that they are really learning from there. The other thing is, when she's going backwards, she was also a horse that, you know, she was putting herself into reverse gear, and then it wasn't one step, but it was once she was in reverse, she took one step back and then all the way back. So it was also important there that I was able to guide the backward steps in the trailer in the same way as I guide the backward steps out of the trailer. So the connection was closer. So of course, when the horse gets more advanced and is listening to the body language and listening to the voice cues, the and the woo and the sh for back, then you can be in a more advanced position where you can do it from the back. And of course, there will be many horses that you can be in that position, and it's very simple for them to do it from there. But this was, of course, an extreme case, and we want to give an example of all the little things that might happen. So if you start to feel that your horse needs extra guidance and you need to be there, or the backing up is the horse is not able to feel when you ask for one step from the back of the trailer that means one step, then go in the position you would be if you were out of the trailer. So all these little things you can diagnose yourself. What bits is my horse missing? And these are some of the techniques you can use to overcome those bits.
All right, let's move on to the next video. It's about keeping control. And oh yeah, and Carmen said, okay, clear, thank you.
And this is the bit often the horses don't like, that they want to be either all the way in or all the way out. And I want it that I can choose, oh good girl, that I can choose at which position I need to stop. Oh good girl. And just by asking them to take one step back, one step forward. Good girl. Oh, oh good. So then again, when she starts to come too much back, so there she's not listening, just playing with the shavings. When I ask for the back and she's taking too many steps back, I try to avoid stopping her on the rope. So here, if she's going too much back, I stop the back by asking one step forward, and then again giving her the rest. So we get the control by keeping the horse in between the backing and the forward, and when our energy is less, we get the stop. Also, when I'm backing out here, that she's backing away straight, she's keeping the head low. You see a lot of horses getting one step out. And
so in this little clip, we're really working on what can be a major thing for a lot of horses. If you've had some horses that have rushed out and maybe taken the head up when they've rushed out and hit the head on the beginning of the roof, you know, if you have horses that have run under the back bar, if horses that have come out not straight and slipped off the side of the tailgate, if you have horses that are really running in, jumping the ramp, horses that get in and then get nervous and you know, can't wait to get out, those that load perfectly, you close up, you travel, you arrive, and then the horse is leaning against the back. These are all cases where the horse either wants to be all the way in or have caused the horse to want to be all the way out. And so it's really this halfway point in which you can have a laser line from the top of the roof, being able to cover the whole of the horse's back from the wither to the croup, and a little bit in front of the neck, that you really have this feeling that the horse can be in this halfway point and he has total rest in that. The other difficulty sometimes is that when the horse has 4 feet on the ramp, the whole body is in one level. When the front feet go on and the back feet are off, sometimes the horse feels a little bit in the back, the balance to want to be up on or up off. So it's this halfway point, sometimes in the balance on the ramp, in which the horse, to be able to find balance, needs to find the rest, that he really can put the weight on all 4 feet, and that when he takes a step forward and he changes the balance and he's on the different balance in the ramp, or he's seeing the roof and he wants to be in, or he sees the head comes up and he wants to be out, we're then letting the horse find the rest and the control of himself and the control of his feet in this zone that can be a pressure zone for whatever reason on individual horses. So really feeling at that moment that, you know, if you get the 2 steps on, you know, and then you have the feeling that he wants to come back, you know, then maybe you have to get that, ask for the back, but a controlled step back. If you have a horse that's really leaning back and you struggle for that 1 step forward, not 10 steps forward, then you might again ask for that 1 step, really get the rest, and then really feel in that zone. Can I take 2 steps out? Can I take 3 steps on? If the horse is running out, just get them to reload, come back to that position, work on that position until it's smooth. If it's a major problem, feel that you get a little improvement in that and make that the session. Feel that you maybe master that thing, that part. Don't go on to then loading the horse, closing up, working on a different part, and then the horse forgets about the most important part that he was insecure about, because at the start of the lesson, that's what you worked on, and then at the end, he's gone on and learned 10 other things, and then you come back and he forgot what it was, that crucial part. So really quitting on those bits where the horse is having insecurity, really master that bit and know that when you master each of the steps, that your end result is much better. And then, of course, the backing away is important, especially for the horses that put the head up, that you can break it down, that your horse is really learning to lower the head on the way up, and then reversing that, lower the head, take a step back. If he's not doing it when he's equal with the roof, also master it for the rest of the steps off. So you might only go just to the roof, then teach him drop the head, walk. This is how we're going to take the steps backwards when we take the 1 step away from the roof, away from the line in the trailer, away from the line where the ramp joins the trailer, that little gap. So that the horse is then really learning, of course, that moment of the transition between in and out. This is the step I want you to take. And then we take 1 step forward. Now remember, this is the step we're going to take back. And that then all the steps on the way out, when they're fully out, the completion of that is also in a position of rest, low with the head, not letting them look up, turn away, letting them really feel that they're in this mode of being in control of themselves and knowing that each step they are thinking about and they're aware about and feel that they're in control of themselves.
All right. Next video is about closing the bar. And I've read that some people are having issues with that. So I think that this will also be very interesting. Let's have a look.
Then from here I can be a little bit over and around her, and then I make a little bit noise here. So I'm a little bit closing up. 1 step forward, good girl, so that she can also step forward from here with the same noise as I would with the whip, and that I can move this here. Now if she takes a step back like this, I'm correcting it with the same forward, and then I walk, stop her in the position which I lost control, and then work over that point again. So I go back, stop, stop. When I don't get the stop, I ask for the forward again. Good girl. And then forward again. Good, and stop. So this, you run a risk here of losing control a bit again because you try to gain more control. Stop. Then she gets a bit frustrated. Forward again. stop. So I have this control again, and of course she thought, oh yes, I know how to go in, and then when I start to say, shh, I want you to have one step out, but then I want you to stop, and then maybe I want you to go in again, then I start to dictate a little bit again the steps. And Missy here says, no, but I'm in charge, so I'm double checking if I'm in charge.
So you can see here we attempt our first time to close the bag, and you see here that this particular mare is very quick then to get frustrated with herself when she's not knowing what it is she has to do, and that she then knows maybe that she's taking another step, and her fear is that then she loses control at that moment. So you see, when I first start to close behind, I want her to feel in the beginning, to feel the bar at the back. So not that she's stepping forward and I close and then she steps a step back and then realizes she's locked in. I want her to be aware of the bar behind, that in the end actually I can press the bar, maybe she's not fully in, and then I can give the sign which she knows is forward, because we've mastered that. We've mastered all the ways, the steps to the chest bar, and all the steps being able to change our minds at any moment, which gives us the ability to keep our horses safe, that it's not that they choose reverse and they're in reverse until they're all the way out, but we can change our minds at any moment. So, and that because she knows that, then it's really important that I like these types of horses to feel the bar and know that the pressure of the bar together with the noise means forward. And then when I, of course, release the bar, then she's thinking, oh, the bar's released, or I'm coming out. So the feeling of being maybe locked in has given her the idea already in her mind, oh, I want to be out. And so what's important for me here is that I don't get led then into the frustration that she's having of thinking, oh, he's going to close me in. I'm going to lose control here. Maybe I'm going to be trapped in here. She starts to be busy. You see the frustration stamping the floor. And it's then important that I just go back and say, no, remember, we're getting control of the steps. If you have control of the steps, then you're in control of yourself. And when you can find the rest in that position, and you know you've put yourself there, I haven't put you there, I haven't made you go there, that you won't feel then that I'm locking you in. And you know what the bar is. It's something that comes behind you. If you lean against it, then you're going to put yourself in a position where you don't find rest. So then when you learn from the noise, when you feel the bar, oh, I go forward, oh, then I find the rest. And it's at that point you can then go further in being able to open the bar, close the bar, open the bar, take one step back, close the bar against the butt, make the noise, she takes one step in. So all variations of the noise is also very important, because that can often be a trigger for horses that have traveled a lot. And, you know, we think, get forward, and then when they're leaning off, we open it, and then they come out. So the noise of the unlatching of the bar can often also be a trigger for, oh, now I'm coming back. And so being able to unhook, hook up, unhook, the horse doesn't move, and actually until the body language and the noise, the horse shouldn't take the step back. So it's so that you eliminate the noise of the bar being a cue to come back. You eliminate the feeling of the bar behind as being a trap, being closed in. And so that you then have the ability to move these things. The horse hears the noise, the horse feels the bar, they understand the meaning of those things that are happening to them in this space that they've just put themselves in. So covering that. And again, if that is taking a little bit of work until you can unhook and hook up and unhook and one step back and one step in and final noise in with the bar. If that takes a little bit of work, that is your session for the day. Then you're taking the horse away again, let him rest, let him know when he comes in again, oh, I just have to do that. When I feel the bar, I step up, and then I'm feeling safe to go the next step.
Awesome. Before we go to the last video, the 6th step, just a shout out, because we still have a lot of people online, a lot of comments, a lot of questions, which is awesome. And we will be getting into those questions. So after this video, we'll go into the opportunity to work with you. And we also have a video you actually received this morning, right? From somebody having issues with trailer loading. She will also go into that and your feedback, and then also all the questions. So let's move on to the 6th video.
We close a little bit up. And so the idea is here that you can close a little bit. They see you a little bit here. And then also I like to get them that they're knowing a little bit what the plastic is behind. So I'm moving the plastic a little bit, treating it a little bit like the tools. When she relaxes a little bit, puts the head down, then I stop with the noise. So she's not having it pulled down and it's closed and dark all of a sudden. She again learns what it's about. So I'm pulling the tarp down. Now she's not paying any attention at all, so I quit. Then I can start to go all the way down. And she feels when it's closed, and then when it's open, up and down a little bit, and then open again. Good. And then we open up. And so I take notice of what's happening here. Is she starting to right away press up against the back bar? Or is she thinking about standing still? And of course we want her that she's not thinking every time we open up, it's time to come out. So then I close again. And then I open again. And then a little bit the rubbing and a bit the movement. Now she's looking, saying, what the hell is he doing back there? Again, shape her behavior when she's standing straight and relaxed again. And I stop with the pressure until in the end she's very comfortable with things moving around, closing the back, the opening the back, and that she's not moving out until I tell her to move a hind leg backwards or to move a front leg forwards. And when you get control of the feet in that way, that you're asking for 1 step back, 2 steps on, the horse is then always waiting for the cue of when they should come back or when they should go forward.
So you see the final stages of the loading process. What's also important is that this is a certain level of a breakdown, but you can also break it down even more if your horse is specifically scared of the ramp closing. So what I never advise is to stand behind the ramp as you're lifting it up, especially if the bar behind is not closed. But some horses that have had a certain trauma with the back closing or the plastic coming down, I'll also put a step in where I don't put the bar behind, where the horse is trapped. So what I'm doing is I'm still leaving it open. I make sure that the horse is very good at all the steps in, all the steps out, being in and being that I can walk away from the trailer and come back to the trailer, and the horse is standing, waiting for the noise to come back. I'm then standing at the very side of the ramp, never behind it. It's really important to if you don't want fingers broken or kneecaps broken, to never be behind the ramp as you're lifting it up and down. And then to be able to just move the ramp up and down and the horse feels safe in the initiation of the lift, the noise maybe that the ramp makes. So really having this feeling that you're at the side. If the horse does stand back, you can let the ramp down, and the ramp is able to, of course, be free of your legs or hands or anything like that. But it just enables the horse to feel that the bar is not behind, and then the back lifts up and maybe they get into this panic mode again. It's very rare. It's mainly for horses that have had a trauma with the closing. I've had horses that have had that from trailer accidents where the trailer's rolled over and the horse is inside, and then they get very fearful of the being trapped, the actual closing up. Also horses that have jumped over the front. In Australia, we have also windows in some of the fronts of our trailer. I've had horses put the 2 front legs through the window. All these kind of things from, maybe the tarp behind, maybe you have a flap, a solid part behind, but also closing that when the horse is on the ramp, but not in the trailer. So being able to let the horse stand at the ramp, pull the tarp down that he sees it from in front, and he gets to a relaxed position. He hears it, he sees it, he can push against it, he gets to know it, he's familiar with it. He's giving the right body language towards the thing, so he feels like he's the one that's being the chaser, not being chased. And then the other important thing is, of course, through the online training, we are teaching the horses with the tools, which is we're really teaching the horses, apart from the body language and control and awareness of their body, we're teaching them the element of how to have a good management system when they're in the presence of elements in the environment that involve movement, touch, sound, and approach. So in the online training, we really have this beginning part of the tools, and the horse really learns to find the position of relaxation when he's being approached or he experiences movement, touch, sound, or approach from a particular tool. So they really have a good management system to be in this environment. So when the horse is in the trailer and you go to close the curtain behind, he knows the technique of finding rest when he's experiencing this element of the noise, of the movement, of the tarp behind. So it's, again, not just getting to the point, okay, he's in the bars behind, we can just close up now. Because, of course, these are also elements that can make a horse be really insecure. And then all the work you've done is then triggered them or being ruined by the last bit where you just close up, the horse feels trapped, you start to drive, and then, of course, you have the moment of anxiety. He's loaded really nice, he's relaxed about it, then he feels locked in, he didn't realize it was being closed, and then you drive somewhere. So that's a really important step for the horse, knowing that you will be closed in. It doesn't mean you're locked in forever. It opens again. If you find and keep the position of rest, you will be okay. And this is the whole process in which that comes about. So maybe, Connie, you can explain now the opportunity to work with me, if I've now also explained a bit that the elements of movement, touch, and sound are also explained in the first modules of the TRT method, which is a really important part, and it can give you skills to be able to become a master trailer loader.
Yes, definitely. So when it comes to trailer loading, of course, as you've explained, that the groundwork pattern is really important. And so we have the online training, and the full online training consists of 3 modules. So first is the groundwork pattern. Second is working with the tools, like also how you apply that with the plastic. And the third one is the riding. But of course, if you're having issues with trailer loading, basically module 1 and module 2 are the ones that are really important at that point. So what's also very interesting is that with the online program, with module 1 and 2, you have that bonus series about trailer loading. So with the mare you saw, it's actually a video split up in parts, in total hour and a half. And normally, if you go for the 2 modules, that's €199. But for everybody who's listening and attending this online masterclass, you can get it for $159. So that's a 20% discount. And you can probably also right now see the offer. And I think it's, I also got a question about someone asking if it's also for foals. Yes. And you get a lot of bonus videos also included. And if you do want to get the module about the riding, you can always upgrade to the 3rd module, but you don't have to if you don't need that one. So if you want to make use of that offer, you can click the link provided. I'll also type it in here. And Tristan, maybe you can explain a bit about, in addition, that when it comes to trailer loading, most of the times people are thinking, oh yeah, I just want to have the bonus video about trailer loading because that's what I need. But it's so important to have the groundwork and that your horse understands the concept of working with tools.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit like if you go to build something and you watch on YouTube a video on how to build a garden shed, and you watch the video on how to build it, but you still don't have all the tools and the techniques for being able to build it. So, of course, the modules are giving you really the tools. It fills up your toolbox in being able to be technically handy, know your body language, your positioning, how to teach your horse really the good foundation and fundamentals to be able to approach the step of being able to be really good at teaching your horse how to master the trailer, and that it's no problem. And of course, the module 2 is really teaching your horse good self-management. So these are not skills that are of course only for trailer loading, only for getting your horse to be able to relax while he's in travel, to be a good traveler, to not have anxiety while traveling, not to have anxiety when turning up to a new venue. You know, it's also about the horse having a good management system, that he's in all areas in control of himself, that he has the ability to be in control of his own physical and mental soundness. And the big thing about the online training or the TRT method is it's different to a lot of other horsemanship techniques, because a lot of other horsemanship videos, courses, books, methods is very much about teaching the people how to control their horse, where the TRT method is very much about how to teach the people how to teach their horses to be in control of themselves. So the big difference being, you don't learn how to control or manage your horse, you're able to teach your horse to have a good management system over himself. So the horse is able to take more responsibility, which makes the life and living and working and playing with your horse much, much easier for the both of you. So I'd say this is the biggest difference, and everything in the modules is going to help you not only with a specific trailer loading or other problem, but just in your general training, in the general existence and happiness of your horse and yourself. And it's a really encompassing philosophy in how people can have things a lot easier and have a lot more fun with it as well.
Definitely, and you also get, I believe, access to almost 20 hours of videos. Of course, you don't have to watch all of them, but because of all the bonus videos, you get a lot of content. A question from, I'm not really sure how to pronounce the name, so I'll just skip that. She says, big question, Tristan, what if you have no lunging arena or an arena to do the groundwork with, only a field? Can you teach them leg control on the lunge?
I don't do any kind of lunging per se. For me, the only similarity is that the horse is, of course, in a rope halter, in a TRT rope halter, that's very specific in the directions and guiding the horse. It's very clear both in the direction but also in the release, in the yes, telling the horse when it's correct. I generally try to do it in a safe area. It's I try to think about the surface, so you know, being in a field and on the grass is also fine for a horse to work in, being on a concrete surface, bricks or concrete or asphalt, is generally not a good place to start, because the horses, of course, can have to move a little bit, and if they're slipping, the confidence level goes away. But of course, also in an area where if it gets to a situation where the horse wants to run away, he can't get away. So it's absolutely fine to do in a field and in a place where, if the horse becomes loose, that you or the horse is not getting injured. So, but yeah, if it's possible to be on sand and in the combined space, it's good. You don't have to be, definitely not in a round pen. I don't have a round pen. I've never worked in a round pen. So yeah, it's not that the horse has to feel confined, but it's just for the safety if something goes wrong, and also for the security and of the confidence of the horse that they're on a good surface that's not going to be too slippy.
Miriam is from the Netherlands, and she asked, is it possible to have Tristan over for a group of people who want to learn the groundwork?
Yeah, we have both training days and, of course, live events. And Connie is, of course, holding her Dressage Pro training days and live events.
When are you coming over, Tristan? Give me the dates so I can let people know.
So it's difficult, of course, to have the time to travel all over the place in the schedule to individual people, but there is opportunities both to come here to TRT stables on our training days, to see workshops on different horses, and of course to bring your own horses, and of course also in Akoi at Connie's place at the Dressage Pro Center. So follow our normal social media links and you can find out everything you need to know there.
Yeah, but I do have to say that members get first opportunity to go for that. And plus, I remember you also telling Tristan about when you have students and they come over for a lesson and they haven't followed online training, like in the beginning when we just started out, there's like, it really gives a big advantage if you've already seen and you've heard the story of the groundwork pattern, that you've already practiced it, and it really works much better if you then get to work with you. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, of course, if you already have seen the groundwork and you're able to understand a little bit the language of what we're trying to explain, you have a bit of an idea of the concept, you start to practice and feel in your body the first foundation of the groundwork pattern, then you're not paying me 150, 200 euro to give you an introduction on your first lesson. You're having, actually in the first 3 modules, probably 6 to 12 months worth of private lessons with me before you come for your one-on-one work. So that gives you a huge advantage of being in the right mindset, knowing what I'm talking about, and then I can give you more of a refinement of what you already know from the online training. So you advance much quicker, and of course everything is much more clear, and you have then more exercises and homework and things you can practice when you go back home, and you get clarification on the things you've already started. So it just gives you a big boost in being able to progress quicker and with more accuracy and more understanding.
All right, awesome. Well, we have a lot of questions, so I'll start going into those. And also, shout out to Meta, who's the member, and Monique. Bridget says, can I come from Australia for an intensive training / education course for myself? TRT travel agency, ?
No problem.
So I have a question from Poppy. She says, have you ever come across a horse that was okay as long as you're near the trailer somewhere, but if you leave to drive the car, they stress because they're relying on you being nearby for safety?
Yes, a lot of horses. And the process of how you load is important, that the horse feels in control of themselves, of course. Most of the time, this process of what we've just gone through now will eliminate all those symptoms. The symptoms is the cause of them feeling like they're being taken in. So led by the hand, they're not taking themselves in, they're not putting themselves in the situation. And if you lead someone in by the hand and then all of a sudden you leave, they don't have that security anymore. They're going in because you're there. So the important thing is the horse feels that it's loading itself. The other thing that I have come across is, which is actually the last step, in which is very important, is teaching your horse the meaning of a destination. So the process through that is, when you start to drive somewhere, the first time you put your horse on, it's very important that you actually don't go anywhere, that you actually teach your horse the meaning of a destination, which means you teach your horse how he has to be in the mindset, how he has to be mentally, how he has to be physically, when he's gone for a drive, when he's traveled. So he's loaded perfectly. He understands everything he needs to know about the loading. You then go to drive somewhere. He's learning a little bit the balance, which he already knows from all the movements you've done going up and down the trailer and up and down the ramp. He's knowing that he can move the feet to find balance, to find stability. And then the meaning of a destination, meaning that you drive somewhere, you come back to exactly the same spot in which you loaded him. And then when he comes out and he backs down away, he's understanding the meaning is we travel somewhere, we arrive somewhere, and I stay relaxed. If you drive somewhere new the first time, horses can develop anxiety from not knowing where they're going to arrive. Do we arrive at a show and there's going to be horses everywhere and I'm not going to recognize anything, and I'm going to have to get my mind busy with who is here and what are they doing and what are they going to ask of me? And so you already build anxiety from them not learning the state they need to show up in a new place in after travel. So that can also give horses anxiety when you put them in the trailer and you leave. They start already thinking about where are we going. So the process of how you load, that the horse doesn't feel you're leading them by the hand and then you abandon them, and then also the meaning of a destination, that they really learn how to be in control of themselves while traveling. Good travelers.
All right. Oh, by the way, welcome to Cornelia from Spain, Earlis from the UK, Maria Lisa from Finland, and Glennis from the UK. See members coming in. A question from Lorraine. Do you trailer your horses with the rope halter, or do you switch out once they're in the trailer? And I also saw another question about the rope halter. That do you have to use the rope halter? Or is a normal halter also okay for the trailer loading?
So for all the work, actually, we have an annual burning of normal webbing halters here at TRT stables. A lot of horses come in training with a terrible cheap halter with silver buckles on the side, sometimes even a little bit of pink fluff. The thing with the rope halter is, again, it's really precise. So a normal webbing halter, when you give direction, it's putting pressure everywhere. So it's not really clear about the precise direction. On a really, for instance, the mare that you saw tonight in the video, a normal webbing halter would be an invitation to drag you down the street like the milkman's horse. So the rope halter is really giving you a precise direction of where the horse is going. The TRT rope halter, the rope is connected directly to the halter. There's no clip and no ring. So you're not having this jingling disconnection between your communication. When the rope halter moves, it's connected directly to the halter, and the horse is not having a miscommunication or a break in the line of communication between your hand, the rope, and the horse's head. The other thing about the rope halter is when you give the release, the yes, the horse barely feels that the halter is on. So the horse doesn't feel like they're being asked anything anymore. So when they're, of course, with the webbing halter, the pressure's everywhere. When you give, they still feel the halter. So it's just that refinement of being really clear. The long rope, for obvious reasons, you get a second chance if the horse is running away. The long rope to allow the horse to be all the way in the trailer while you're still in the position of stability where you're guiding them from, So the horse really feels like he's putting himself there. You don't have a short lead where you have to lead them in yourself. Stay with the horse. I'm also keeping the rope halters on when I'm traveling. I have a special way in which I tie the horse, especially the young ones, to give them stability so that they're not being held from a fixed point, which can allow them to jump over the chest bar. So for instance, you have a young horse, he's not so experienced traveling, you come on the freeway the first time and some truck comes up behind you and blows his horn, or a car drives off the road and runs into something. You have some kind of cyclone wind that blows in the back of the trailer, pushes the horse over. This just gives the horse some stability there. And it's also important that the end knot is able to be loosened, so that if your horse is laying down or getting into some uncomfortable position, you can always release that halter. And it's that I release it, and not that the horse gets into a panic and the halter breaks and the horse can get flung back up into the roof or through the roof and these sort of things. So for me, when used correctly, the rope halter is more safe. On the other hand, when I'm traveling for a very long distance, for instance, if I'm having an international show, we don't generally allow the horses to be more than 8 hours on the trailer or on the truck. But if I am, I'm then it's then that I use actually a light normal halter, but with the sheepskin in. So because they still have to have something on their head, then we have the sheepskin on, that there's no specific sweat points or points where if they're moving to eat hay, that the rope halter is moving a lot. So that's the only time, but for the rest of the time I'm only using the rope halter, and my horses have traveled for many, many years very safely. Also horses that are in the past have had traumas, accidents in trailers, car accidents, trailers rolling over, horses staying inside, traveling also in the rope halter afterwards and being safe and secure and having a nice experience.
All right. Well, I'm going through all the questions. Difficult to pick one because there's so many. Suzanne wanted to know, she said, I had to get on late. So is this mare okay with loading now, or are you or her owner still doing this, if not regularly or occasionally?
So after the last video, yeah, actually she had probably 2-3 days more training, and then actually she was a pro. This horse is actually living in Australia now, so it was a very good preparation because she had to be loaded on the transport, of course, and she had to then go off the transport and then onto a cargo container, onto a plane, flying 36 hours to Australia and coming off the other end. And she actually had a very good journey. And from that day on, she's been very good. But it's all, the horse also went to somebody that also has a really good understanding of the TRT method, and also is able to put into practice the steps when there becomes some kind of insecurity. The mare is, of course, you saw, very strong-willed. So during the process of training, to keep the skills, during the process of training, she had to learn a lot of things, so that she felt like she was in control of herself and she was comfortable with the process. But then, you know, she's a mare with a lot of character. So, you know, we trimmed this rose bush into a nice ball, and she was performing perfectly and felt very comfortable and was always behaving like a princess. And then, of course, you get a few wild branches growing out, where you approach one day and she's been really fresh in the field, and she hasn't been on the trailer for a while, and she forgot what the rules were and how she needed to approach. So, of course, along the way, If you feel in your horses that they're getting a little bit wild in some other areas, or they start to have, different ideas of the management of themselves, this is, of course, a continuation of development. And I always say you don't teach a flying change once and it's there forever. You can always improve and develop. The horse gets more comfortable and the horse is able to develop a better management system in themselves. The horse can always be more relaxed, always be more comfortable when they learn a really good management system. So, but pretty much the horse is not getting ever to a stage again where it's impossible to load.
All right, and welcome to Natalie from Norway. And we have an interesting question from Margaret. She says, do you think a horse can equate getting into the box means work at wherever you stop? And today she doesn't feel like work and therefore she simply refuses to load. If so, then the challenge is, of course, get your horse into the box to go to an unwork event, like just a hack at a friend's place. Do you think it works that way?
Definitely horses can have an association to a certain process or a pattern. They can associate they can be very good at loading, and then they know in travel that the driver thinks that he's Michael Schumacher and he has a little trouble balancing with the erratic driving. You can have horses that, of course, know that when they go on the trailer, they're going to a competition. And for instance, they're not super confident at the show. They have, of course, other issues with being at the show. And so, yeah, horses are intelligent enough to know that when they go in the trailer, that means they're going somewhere. But most of the time, this can be eliminated not by having to make special excursions to the beach to have a relaxing time on the weekend, but just knowing that you can practice the training part, teach it, make it a training. Don't have it that every time the horse goes on a trailer, this is the pattern, that it stays the same, that they have an association to the trailer, that is sometimes a loading exercise, being on there, being familiar again with the loading, drive around the block, come back again, come off again. You can make it a 10-minute, 15-minute training session after riding, before riding. But again, like the first point in the webinar tonight, that you always treat it as a training. Don't always just put them on because you have to go somewhere, and that can break the cycle. But for sure, horses can have a strong association with. Now we're going to go to the racetrack and we're going to run a bunch of laps and I'm going to feel shitty afterwards. Maybe it can be a reflection of your riding when you go somewhere. It's like, oh, I'm going to the lesson and they work the shit out of me in my lesson. I'm not going on the track anymore. Absolutely, but just separating that by having good trainings with the trailer and the loading and the travel aside from doing a specific journey.
We have really good questions, by the way. I really like them. Welcome to Anya from the Netherlands. She's just signed up. And we have a question from Catherine. And she says, my girl gets very nervous at a stop when traffic is moving around the trailer. She will get worked up, move around, kick and sweat, but she will just get right in. I would like to make her feel better when traveling.
Sorry, I missed the last bit there, Connie.
I will repeat it. My girl gets very nervous at a stop when traffic is moving around the trailer. She will get worked up, move around, kick and sweat, but she will just get right in. I would like to make her feel better when traveling. I think this also happens a lot. So the horse will get in, and then you think, oh, it's fine because she gets in, but then during traveling, it's not going very well.
So a lot of the time, again, treating it as a training, so making the shorter trips, making a breakdown, teaching the horse the meaning of a destination so that you're able to, drive around the block, that you build a pattern of control, that the horse is really knowing and understanding the process of getting on, going somewhere, coming back, getting off, building a pattern where they feel that they're in control of themselves. They have a good understanding that they can feel success. They know what the feeling of accomplishment is. I went in, we drove around, I came back. Oh, I didn't get nervous. I didn't get myself into a state. The other important thing, of course, is in the process of loading, they learn patience. They're learning the thing that when you quite often get some horses that when you're driving, it's going really well because they feel like they're moving. And then when you're standing still, then you start to get the impatient moment. So the way they load and the ability to wait and stand, you know, not having the feeling that you're closing up behind, that you can have the trailer open, you can walk away, you can come back. You know, when they're really finding rest in the process, all the steps along the way, they learn what rest is in the trailer. And then that helps them to be able to take that into travel. So it's very important that we think about what is the main element we want in each of the steps that makes them successful at being a good traveler. So it's very much quite often with those horses with the patience issues, with not having a good understanding of a meaning of a destination, anxiety builds up through thought of where am I going, what are we doing? The anxiety builds up because they didn't approach the trailer in the beginning relaxed and confident. They feel like they're being put on. They're really honest in just going on every time when we ask them to, but not really understanding that they're taking themselves there, that they're having the responsibility of not being put on, but taking themselves on, and then finding the rest in all the points along the way. These are really the skills, and when we master each of the steps, we have the possibility of having a better result at the end.
All right, we have a question from Miriam. She says, when I want to follow the online training, I probably make mistakes. Isn't it better to follow a personal training? I will start loading a month earlier, a week.
So what's really interesting is, and maybe it's a bit of a worry, what we've found actually, and you never know this because in the beginning, Connie and I had the idea to try to help people, more people in more places at once. And of course, in a personal training, there's only 14 hours in a day, in our day. And, you know, you can only teach that many people, even if you taught 14 hours a day, it's 14 people. So we're able to spread across many more people at once. And the other thing we found, which we didn't know how it was going to go, was how quickly people were going to pick something up, how handy people were going to be, how much they were going to understand. And I've analyzed it a lot, and actually, and it's with a lot of different things, trailer loading being one of them, teaching piaffe, teaching the horses to park in, to get on the magical way, horses that are horse shy, and all the things in the online training on the TAT method. People are getting better results in a shorter time than if they were to come to me and have a personal lesson. And that's why I say it's a bit worrying, the reflection of my lesson giving ability. But as I said, I've analyzed it a lot, and I think it's something to do with the normal learning process of humans, in that when I'm standing there and I'm instructing you, I'm taking some of the responsibility away from you. So I'm actually creating the doing for you. In the process of a lesson, you have to listen to me and process and do. If I tell you 10 things, let's say I only tell you 10 things in the lesson, which is very rare. Maybe I tell you 100 things, but if I tell you 10 and you've only been able to process, if you're processing really well, 8 of the 10 things, when you leave in the car, you remember and are familiar with 5. In 2 days, you remember really 3. and in a week you can kind of do 2, and when you come back you really can only do 1. With the online training, what's happening is you're taking responsibility of yourself by going, sitting, watching, and only processing but not doing. So you're giving yourself the time to look and absorb the information. You are telling yourself what you need to know. So you're getting the crucial points, not all the things I'm telling you, and some of the things you don't need to know, but really what you feel, the information you need to know in that moment. You then go and you've processed it, then you start to process it again and do, and then without having someone in your ear, you're only focusing on what you've already retained. You start to do, but then you can say, well, I've mastered that. I'm going back for the next step, or I feel a bit confused. I'm referring back to the video, and you gain more knowledge for yourself, and you take more responsibility for the information you're feeding yourself. Self-feeding is better than someone force-feeding. And then from then on, the progression becomes quicker. And then what happens is, of course, sometimes you can go through the process, and we do get some members that are doing the movements. So they're doing the pattern, they've learned where to stand, their positioning is perfect, they're making the steps, but they miss, the only thing they then miss is sometimes the feeling of the meaning, that it goes deep into the horse, that the actual last bit of the feeling, that the projection of energy, the connection, the fine tuning is sometimes then the step we need, and that's generally sometimes in the the more advanced movements, or the progression into the riding, or the tools on a horse that's really sensitive, or a horse that's a little bit lazy, that the specific thing of it really coming in, that the horse feels it on the inside, not only on the outside, that can of course come from that lesson, from that one-on-one. But the big advantage then is you already have tools, you already have a dialogue of what you're doing, and then you start to execute, and then I can specifically say, oh, you've processed this really well, and you do this, this, and this good, but this little key point that you can get now from me watching you is the last bit that can make you progress further or get you even better. The other big advantage about the online training is our live Q&As for the members that we have every month.
I just wanted to mention it. It was like at the tip of my...
So that's a big advantage, because then you have one-on-one with me every month. So what's happening is then you can send videos in. So for instance, you've started the trailer loading, you've followed the bonus module, you've listened to this, of course, webinar, and then once you can send in the video, okay, I'm practicing and this is what I'm doing, and then you send the video, and then I sit with you and with the other members, and we watch and we look, and I say, oh, this you're doing really well, but this little step here, the horse is starting to lose focus, or you're putting too much energy, or you're too busy, or you took 2 steps forward when you should have taken 1 step back. So that little refinement bits, you can get direct feedback from me. You have access every month.
And well, actually, we had a member who sent in a video, and she started trailer loading yesterday. And normally we would talk about that on the live Q&A, which we have next week. But we decided to do it tonight because of the topic of this webinar. So shall we have a look at that, Tristan?
Yeah, we can
already
an example of what normally happens if you're a member.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The other thing about it, what I want to say quickly, Connie, is for the members, even sometimes you can also be shy to show your work, but there's so many people now sending in and asking questions that quite often the problems, or what you're working on with your horse, you then pick up from somebody else. You know, you see things in your own horse on what somebody else is doing. And of course, Connie, we have the archive of all the live Q&As.
Yeah, of 3 years, 3 years of questions and videos.
Yeah. So if you have a question, you can go in the search, look up the archive, and maybe in one of the past Q&As, I've answered that question, or we've shown a little video, or someone's shown a video with the same difficulty, and you can have reference to that. So all those things.
Actually, we also do it this way, is that when we get a question and we think, hey, maybe actually we've had this question before, we always send a link to that answer, and often that already solves the problem, and if not, we forward it to the next Q&A. But let's play the video.
Good. So yeah, Catherine is an online TRT member, and Connie, you said on the message that she started yesterday with the training.
Yeah, with the trailer loading, she started yesterday.
Okay, so already, Catherine, you're doing a very good job. I stopped the video there because I didn't have a counter. Otherwise, I would write down at which second I needed to give the information. But you can see clearly now, and also what we've talked about through the webinar, it's an all the way on or all the way off horse. So what's important, where you lose control, is the halfway point. The point at where I stopped the video now was the first time that the horse found the rest point at the halfway mark where the roof was. Now, what was then important at that moment where he stopped the first time at the halfway point was not to go forwards in. Because, of course, he can go all the way in, and then you're back to the start again. You take one step back, then he rushes out. So it's getting to that point where you find the rest point, which he did. He stopped halfway. Front legs were on, and the hind legs were off. And you can see the hind legs are a bit busy. He's searching for the balance, but he does stand still. It's at that point that you need to then choose the one step back, not the going in again. So it's actually that 1 millimeter there. If you had at that point gone one step off and rested again, and maybe another step off and rested, and then 2 steps on to that point again, you would have started to smooth out that trigger point of where the rushing back comes from. So it's really a all the way on horse or all the way off, and so you've got to the halfway point, but it's at that moment you need to practice your off, not then putting him all the way on. And when you have that control, your off control from that position, then the rest will go really well. Your positioning yourself is good. You're stable. You're relaxed. Your cues seem to be very good. What I was a little bit worried about, I didn't see it yet, but when the horse is a little bit busy, your right hand looks like it's about to come up. And what you don't want to do is when the horse starts to go back is put the whip behind and start to block him. Because if the whip rests against the horse, you actually then teach him to push against the whip. And of course, he will come out. He's in reverse and he's coming all the way out until he's out. And then if he pushes against the whip and then he goes out, there's a moment where he then will get to rest. And then he will learn perfectly. You will have perfectly taught him when he feels something behind, push against him, go all the way out, and then you'll find the rest. So it's really important that that arm doesn't get too itchy, that if he comes out, don't block him, just give him the cue to wait or get it to go forward again. Sometimes getting the weight is not about saying stop. Sometimes we use wool, get the rest. But sometimes the going backwards, asking the forward is what changes the gear between back a little bit forward to get the stop. So remembering those things. But you're on the right track. You've got some good skills so far. So the problem is you'll probably start to have all kinds of people asking you to trailer load their horses. But anyway, you'll be a master at it, and you and your own horse will go far and be able to travel safe.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last question.
And what's also important, is to remember to get Catherine to also send in next members live Q&A an update.
Yeah.
We want to see the progression, and then we can help to refine it further.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Catherine is live right now. I don't think so, but I'm sure she'll listen to the replay. Okay, 2 questions, because I'm curious. One is about, actually, I think I saw 2 questions about this, that what to do when you don't have a ramp. And the second one is from Kitty. She says she has a Renault Master truck, and a horse will go into the truck, but not in a trailer. When she walks in trailer, she runs out. So one about when you don't have a ramp, and one if your horse does go in the truck and not in the trailer.
So the first one with the ramp, we've done a lot of horses in the US. It's quite common in the US not to have a ramp. We've had some cases where the difficulty was the stepping up. The process in the training is actually exactly the same. It doesn't matter how a horse needs to navigate its way in and out of something, whether there's a ramp there or not. The steps are the same. We've, on some horses that I had one, a little, it was a paint horse, but it was a gated horse. I remember specifically. He'd not turned around and walked out. The lady had a gooseneck trailer, and he actually backed out, and he misplaced the foot, and that both hind legs went out, and he fell on the side. It was quite a nervous, sensitive horse anyway. And then, of course, he didn't want to go in. And then when she got him in, he wouldn't go out, forwards, backwards, left or right. So in that case, I got him over the anxiety by actually just backing him up to a little bit of a rise in the ground, so that actually we got a little mound of dirt that gave him a small ramp. And then when he learned the in and the out, then we took a little bit of ground away and actually just made a little step down. So then the step was little, and then we could build up till there was nothing there. So yeah, the process is the same. Same with the horses stepping forwards and out. Also, I get the horses to stop halfway, 1 foot on the back of the trailer with no ramp, 2 feet on, right foot off, left foot off, left foot on, right foot on, and then right foot off, left foot off. So swapping, that they get control and they can walk the front legs forward and they can put one hind leg on, they can take one hind leg off. So they know all the steps in between. It's the same as walking on a ramp. There's not as many steps. There's just one step and you're on. So that's the only difference. A horse that goes on a truck but not on a trailer is the old case of the horse got used to it. He's okay with it. He's not used to the trailer. He doesn't know it, so he doesn't go on. So it's exactly the same. Going through the training, going through the steps, teach it as not something that's similar or the same as the truck at all. It's a totally different process. Quite often they are loading at a different angle in the ramp. They're going into a different space with a different lighting. They have to turn. They don't have to turn. They have to go right. They have to go left. They stand on an angle. They stand straight in the trailer. They don't have to back off a truck. They can walk forward. So everything is pretty much different. So train it and teach it as a totally separate thing, making sure you go through all the steps and that the horse is able to understand the difference and that he's not having this association of, this is not my truck. I'm not going in here. This is not what I'm used to. So being able to teach him from the beginning what it is, and then you'll often find that there's parts that they're loading into the truck that's also not perfect. So going through that process really teaches you also the parts that the horse needs to know to be safer traveling in all kinds of transport vehicles.
All right, thank you so much, Tristan, for all your tips and insights, and a big thank you also to all the people being online, commenting, asking questions. Really awesome. And also a big welcome to all the new members. And to the new members, hope to see you all next week during the live Q&A. And Tristan, I'm going to talk to you after this Q&A about some dates for the training days here in Akkoy. So everybody have a nice evening or a nice morning wherever you're from, and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much, guys. See you next time. Good luck with your horses. Bye-bye.